This episode is presented by Wild CBD. Wild produces the best tasting edibles on the market using real fruit and all-natural flavoring. With flavors inspired by the Pacific Northwest, high-quality ingredients, real fruit, and consistent dosing. Wild has become one of the leading cannabis edible products in the country. Wild's new infused gummies in blackberry, huckleberry, lemon, raspberry, and CBD-infused sparkling water in raspberry, lemon, blackberry, and blood orange. Each gummy is dosed with 25 milligrams of CBD and can be purchased in a bottle of 10 or 20. Wild CBD is offering our listeners 30% off their next purchase from wildcbd.com. Wild spelled W-Y-L-D, CBD.com. By using the code POD, that's code POD for 30% off your next purchase. Wild CBD products are intended for use by individuals aged 18 and older. Wild CBD products should only be consumed as directed on the label and should not be used if you are pregnant or breastfeeding. All Wild CBD products are made with ingredients containing 0% THC. Consult with your health professional prior to using Wild CBD in combination with any medications or other dietary supplements.
Hello and welcome to the Infectious Groove Podcast, part of the Odd Pods Media Network. Recorded at the 33 1/3 Music Appreciation Center in Speakeasy, located just outside of Detroit, Michigan. The Infectious Groove Podcast is your source for jammy jams, music news, and the best in-depth music discussion. Thanks for joining us. Now here are your hosts.
Oh boy, do we have a hot one today.
Yeah.
Hot damn.
Yeah, I was going to ask how y'all are doing, but I mean, shit. Well, just for shits and grins, I know you want to say this, Michelle. Guess what? Guess what?
Chicken butt.
That is right. So we have a whole lot of cool things going on this week. I would assume that a lot of people are tuning in for our interview with Taj Jackson, which will come up here in a little bit. Dude was very giving of his time. And
absolutely.
Literally no topic off subject. I asked him before and after the interview if there was anything he didn't want to talk about or anything he wanted to take out, and he said nope. He was just fine with everything that he said. And
That's
awesome.
Yeah,
I was happy with it too. Other big things going on for us. I'm certain you've seen it on our social media, our personal socials, and the show socials. We are in week 2 of being shocked that we made it to the finals of the Discover Pod Awards. I read that there was something like, there's hundreds of thousands of podcasts, and there was something like 9,000 different music podcasts that were nominated, and we made it into the final 11.
Shut up.
Wow.
Which is incredible.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So if you're hearing that news and you said, well, how can I help? You want to go to awards.discoverpods.com. There are a whole bunch of other categories you can vote in, but you can scroll down to Best Music Pod, vote for us, and please only vote once, by the way. We've had a lot of people, kind-hearted people, being like, can I vote more than once? You can get us disqualified if you do that, so please don't do that.
That's what's confusing, because a lot of those things you can just vote a million times and they just weed it out.
But I like that. You can't, you know.
Yeah.
So,
you should only be able to vote once. I agree.
So, for real, this is the first time in my life that I truly understand when people are like, it's an honor just to be nominated. You know, like I truly am stunned and honored. So if we don't make it, whatever. But if you get a chance to help us out, we would appreciate that. So we also have stickers are on their way now.
They shipped yesterday.
They shipped to us yesterday, which means when we get them, we're going to put pictures up on socials. So make sure you're following us on Facebook and Instagram at Infectious Groove Pod and on Twitter at Infectious_pod, because we are going to give away a whole heck of a lot of them, at least to our U.S. listeners right off the top, on account of the fact that we don't want to pay $50 to ship one sticker for free.
Sorry.
To folks. Yeah. So we are going to give those away via our social media as soon as they arrive, which should be mid next week, I would guess. I think shipping is fairly fast.
Yeah, I think it was only like 3 to 5 day shipping or something.
Right on. All right, let's get into it.
Music news.
What is going on? It's been a really light week for music news.
It's been such a light week that I feel like I'm forgetting something.
Yeah. Well, my thing was, I told you guys before we went on air, it's like nobody screwed up this week and nobody passed away. So
moving on.
Yeah. Well, in old school, like the way the music industry used to run, the holiday season was always live album and greatest hits season. Mm-hmm. And I know I sound like Captain Old Guy when I say this, but like we haven't had any artists in the last 10 years who have even put together a career who could put out a live album or greatest hits. You know, so the holiday season is just kind of like, all right, well, here's some music. You know,
yeah, that's true.
So
other than that, I mean, Paris Jackson is putting out more new music,
which is sweet,
which is awesome, and it's just fitting for this episode considering who we have on.
Yeah, I was saying this is a Jackson-centric episode on accident.
She released a new single called Let Down, and I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, it reminds me of like a hint of Sarah McLachlan with a whole lot of Mazzy Star.
Yeah.
You know, that's what it sounds like to me. And it's if anybody listened to the show previously, we talked all about her like folk duo, the Soundflowers, that she had. This is completely different. And this is on her own. And there's a full record of it coming. It's coming out on a Sunday, which is weird, but yeah, Sunday the 13th.
The Soundflower stuff is awesome too.
Yeah, I dig it. So if there happens to be other members of the Jackson family who are musical who want to come on the show, we'll be down for that as well. But and I also meant to mention to you before we went on air, the name of the record coming out is Wilted, and the name of the single was Let Down, right?
Yeah.
So there's that, and then what else?
Other than that, the AMAs released all their nominations and all that kind of stuff, which I don't think anyone actually cares.
So I put in my notes for music news, the 2020 AMA nominations were announced, and then under that, for my subnote, I put, "Do we care?"
We had a whole episode about it, and I honestly do not care about award shows whatsoever.
Yeah, like you don't care about them at all.
Yeah, I don't.
Well, my thing is, I feel like you said, we did a whole episode on this, but I feel like the Grammys have at least some cachet to them. 10-time Grammy winner, 3-time Grammy winner, whatever. But I don't know anybody who cares about an AMA. Even Kid Rock's AMA is sitting at a restaurant in Detroit. You know what I mean?
I will say that if the word Grammy has some clout to it, right? So if a music like now, especially if you're watching an interview with a musician and they're at their house and they're sitting in front of 8 Grammys on the shelf, you're like, oh, holy shit!
Yeah.
But
I don't know why, but John Legend springs to mind.
Yeah.
Anytime you're talking about John Legend, there's 14 behind him.
If you have 8 Moonmen on a shelf, I'm just going to assume that you're just a person who won 8 Moonmen.
I'm certain that we covered this during the show, but when you have Moonmen, to me, that's more like, okay, well, your team hired a good video director.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that you're. Right. I can think of plenty of videos where the song was terrible, but the video got a lot of attention.
Right.
The AMAs just don't, the Billboard Awards, there's way too many music award shows, at least in my opinion. And the AMAs are just way down there for me. I just don't. It used to, at least when I was a kid, there was a ton of great performances on the AMAs. One of my all-time favorite sound drops comes from it. Outrageous! Lionel Richie. Just, the man was well, I guess I can't say this on air, but I'm pretty sure that he was on something.
High as a kite, yeah.
and he just kept saying outrageous through the whole show because it was the talent on display was ridiculous. In any case, the AMA announcements are out. We'll see how they handle the show. If anything, it might be interesting with the Rona.
I will say, back to the Grammy thing, I love seeing when an artist sweeps the Grammys and there's always those pictures of them holding 8 of them, they can't even hold them all. That's awesome to me, and that has to be awesome to them as well.
MJ was the first one to do it. There's pictures of MJ where he literally 2 arms is not even enough. He's got people beside him that are also here's the other Grammys.
Yeah, and you don't really see that with AMAs or any of the other no one really. It's just not the same thing.
I remember the year that Thriller came out, the AMAs, the next night on the evening news, I remember the anchor being the American Music Awards happened last night, and they might as well have called them the Michael Jackson Awards, because he just literally swept
That's great.
everything. So that is really a non-eventful week, which, if nothing else, I'm just glad we don't have somebody to pass
It's actually a good thing that there hasn't been a lot going on.
Yeah, so we'll take that. Moving right along. Our jammies. So for me, there is really 3 songs that have been on my mind this week. With Halloween, everybody seems to always have the same go-to songs like Monster Mash and Thriller and all that. I did listen to a lot of Michael Jackson and Halloween related, but not at all Thriller. I listened to Too Bad and Is It Scary quite a bit this week because they're both from Ghosts and History and Blood on the Dance Floor, respectively. And they're both 2 really, really, really underrated Michael Jackson songs. And Ghosts as a whole doesn't get anywhere near the love it should, at least in the United States, because it was never officially released here. And they just put the entire film on his YouTube page in HD for the first time ever. And the overall message of the film is just excellent. It's more or less it's not okay to hate or discriminate people just because they're different from you. And I think it's 10 times better than Thriller as far as the over. Thriller is what it is. It's a dance video with zombies, and that's what it's meant to be. Ghost is an actual message film, and I just really like it, and I'm glad it's out there. But then it's the other Halloween one that's my go-to Halloween song. It's not Monster Mash or any of that stuff for me. Dokken, Dream Warriors, which has so much going against it on paper. First of all, it's a Dokken song, and second of all, it's the theme song to not the first, not the second, but the third Nightmare on Elm Street movie.
Oh, boy.
And the Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is like notoriously known as like the worst horror sequel in the history of the world, and then 3 is a complete bounce back. Like, it's a way better movie. And there's so many ways this could have gone south, and the song kicks ass. Like, it's a great song on its own, and then it also works as a total companion piece to the film. I always, every time Halloween comes around and everybody's posting like that they're listening to Thriller or Monster Mash or whatever else, I'm always like, no, Dream Warriors is just where it's at. So people that were over last night had the pleasure of hearing that song at least 5 or 6 times. So let's go over to Michelle now. There's really not a way to pump this up properly, but I guess that is music news, right? We should have included that. Hey, everyone, Michelle is going to share her Jammy Jams.
I am.
What you been listening to, Michelle?
I have 2 things. One is a song that I discovered on TikTok a few months ago, and it was, I know.
Oh, boy.
God.
And I couldn't find it forever, and she actually released it yesterday on Spotify, and it's a single. It's by Abigail Barlow, and it's called I'm Only Me When I'm Not Sober. And it's been stuck in my head.
Abigail Barlow?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's been stuck in my head since I heard it the first time, and it's so catchy. And you guys probably hate it. But
No, you did. You had me going on a fury
know.
that one night trying to find it,
Yep.
and it didn't exist until now.
Yeah, and so she finally recorded it and released it on
That's rad.
Spotify. So it's very catchy. And then the other one is I think this just came out, but I shared it with you guys yesterday. The Outkast and Zach De La Rocha, their remix of B.O.B. Bombs Over Baghdad, and that has been fire, and it's been also playing constantly at my desk at work. So I'm sure everyone enjoys that.
How many fire emojis?
I think I only sent you 2.
Oh. Wow.
I don't.
Hashtag possible stinker.
Well, it's out of how many? Maybe it's out of 2. Maybe the fire emojis only go to 2.
Well, you did a 1 to 10 scale for the album tournament.
Well, that wasn't fire emojis.
Oh, for the love of Christ.
So we're going to go with 5 fire emojis is 100%. So you're going to go with 2?
No. You didn't. No, you didn't specify that before I told you how many fire emojis.
How many fire emojis?
5.
5 out of 5.
5 out of 5
Oh, there
fire
we go.
emojis.
Hashtag
It
no
must
sticker.
really be fire then.
Yes.
Hashtag no
So
stickers.
that's been on repeat in my head and also in real life.
Fantastic. Kyle, other than being forced to listen to those songs, what have been your jammy jams?
I've been back all over. For a long time, or most of the time, I'm all over the place with listening to all sorts of different stuff. Well, I got on to listening to Passenger by Deftones. That led me to listening to the entire White Pony album, which is fantastic.
Did you see they have a new record coming, by the way?
Yes, yeah.
We talked about it, didn't we?
Yeah, Ohms.
With the by the dots.
Oh, that's the
Yeah.
one with the. Okay,
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
put that together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where you could buy the dot for your charity or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on.
So I re-listened. I mean, I've listened to that album 1,000 times, but I re-listened to that. Also, Busta Rhymes released a new album called
I've heard good things about it, but I haven't listened to it yet.
Extinction Level Event 2, The Wrath of God. It's I think people forget about how talented Busta Rhymes is. Because,
for sure.
Because all you think of is those songs that you saw on like MTV.
Yep.
And he is actually super, super, super talented.
Absolutely.
And he displays a bunch of that talent on this album.
Good.
Which is awesome.
That song with Kendrick Lamar is good too.
Yeah.
Not 5 fire emojis.
I was just going to say, can you please give me a fire emoji
You know
on
what?
this?
Since we're on the topic of the last name being Jackson, they sample the Jackson 5 on one song on there, and it's done so well that it almost sounds like Michael's there,
In the song.
on the song with him, not being sampled
Yeah.
as part of the beat. And
That's
it's
rad.
Yeah, it's awesome. And then there was one more. Ty Dolla $ign released a full album, and it's called Featuring Ty Dolla $ign because he released it because everyone thought that that's all he was just a feature artist.
Right.
So he released an entire album featuring everybody else.
That's great.
Yeah, and it's really good. And
One of my favorite maneuvers like that in the history of music is there's a cat named Phil Vassar, who is a country artist, and he wrote like a decade of. If you liked a country song in the '90s, Phil Vassar probably wrote it. Jody Messina, Tim McGraw, wrote all these massive hits, and then he put out his first record, and he did all his versions of the songs that were hits, and his first album is called Phil Vassar's Greatest Hits.
I think I did know that. You
Yeah,
probably told me that.
that is
That's awesome.
fantastic.
Yeah.
That's a baller move.
Yeah, so this is along the same lines. Like it could be because he's super talented. He writes, produces, plays tons of different instruments. Like does all this shit that no one thinks about when you think about him. They just think about him being on a hook on someone else's song, right? And so when he put that out, and I was like, I'm going to check this out and see if it's actually good or not. And it absolutely is. And I think every song on that album could be on the radio. Like that's how
right.
like yeah.
Well, that means every song will end up in ads at least.
yeah.
If nothing else. All right. If anybody happens to be listening to the show for the first time, normally these segments take a little bit longer. We usually get into a little bit more discussion. But because I mentioned earlier, Taj Jackson was so generous with his time. Like we probably could have talked for another hour, you know. And so the interview clocks in at almost an hour. So I'm going to take us to break real quick. We'll come back and take care of a little housekeeping. Definitely housekeeping.
That is a little bit of housekeeping.
Take care of paying some bills, and then we will get you right to the Taj Jackson interview. We'll be back in just a second.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dylan.
I'm Corey.
I'm Kendall.
Together, we host From the Middle, a comedy and culture podcast about being middle-class guys living in the middle of America, in the middle chapters of our lives, with points of view that fall somewhere in the middle.
That's right, Corey. We chat about all things, mostly husband and dad life, geek culture, and entertainment, from a relatively centrist and regular point of view. We all hear enough about the extreme ends of the spectrum, so we thought we'd create a conversational and relaxed podcast from a moderate perspective.
Flyover state? Psh, more like state fairs, livestock. Guys, what's something that's cool and impactful that is the antithesis of boring?
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Listen to our podcast. We'd love for you to join the conversation. You'll forget you're not actually hanging out with us.
That's From the Middle. Available wherever you find podcasts and at From the Mid Pod everywhere.
Hello there. Do you like real-life historical tales? If so, have I got the perfect podcast for you? My name is Alice, and I host the Backtracker History Show. Based in the UK, this self-confessed geek takes you for a stroll down memory lane and shares stories and interesting nuggets of information that has been discovered along the way. From tales of tragedy and sadness to epic stories of human courage or creativity, there are many people in history who have made their mark, however small. You can find it wherever you get your podcasts, and remember to leave a rating or review if you can. If you want to find out more, you can get in touch with me via Twitter or Facebook using @BacktrackerUK with a capital V, capital T, and a capital UK. But until then, take care, guys, and look after each other.
Hi, I'm Shannon.
I'm Jamie.
We're Married with Television, marriedwithtv.com. We are a couple of Hollywood normies on the outskirts of the film and TV industry, and we talk about our favorite TV shows, music, and movies, and sometimes they talk back to us.
Sometimes they do.
Our podcast is Married with Television, one word, on Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, and SoundCloud.
Possibly Amazon soon. And we are a proud member of the Odd Pods Media Network.
Married with TV.
marriedwithtv.com.
We're back. We are going to get you right to the Taj Jackson interview here in just a moment. Right before we do that, we do have an opportunity afforded to us by being members of the Odd Pods Media Network that starts with me asking you guys a question. How's the downstairs?
Downstairs is good.
Downstairs is good for you? Michelle, let me ask you a question. How's the downstairs?
My downstairs is great.
Your downstairs is great?
Downstairs is good, but it just got better.
Yeah, well, I really feel like I need to press Michelle on this. How's Kyle's downstairs?
That's not very nice.
Fantastic.
It's beautiful.
I'm asking them because Manscaped just announced their new products that are launching in the UK, Canada, and of course they've been here available in the US. The Manscaped 3rd generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents.
Yeah.
Kyle, were you having grooming accidents prior?
Yeah, it's really easy to do, and it's not
There's
fun
a
when it
light
happens.
on it.
Yeah, I was just going to say one of the coolest features is there's a light on it, so you can find your way around downstairs
In the dark.
in the dark.
It's my favorite thing to do is shave in the dark, actually.
Besides launching in the UK and Canada, they also did a whole bunch of upgrades like the LED light, and they also upgraded the motor to a 7,000 RPM motor, which is called the Quiet Stroke technology, which I love.
It's also called the Lawnmower 3.0.
Yeah, which I love. So I love their tagline. It is make your testes their besties, which is fantastic.
And depending on what you order, when you get it in the mail, you might open a box that says your balls will thank you.
Right, which is fantastic. So speaking of making an order, you can go to manscaped.com, and if you go there, you're going to pay regular price usually, or you can use our code, which is brought to you by us and Manscaped and the Odd Pods Media Network. You can get 20% off plus free shipping by using the code IGP20. So Infectious Groove Podcast 20. IGP20 and manscaped.com brings you 20% off and free shipping. Now that the bills are paid and the downstairs is clean,
Yep.
we are going to take you guys into this interview with Taj Jackson. I can't stress enough, no topic was off limits. He was very open and honest, and we got to talking some smack about some people who need to
get smacked,
treating other people a little bit better, or to get smacked. So here we go. Taj Jackson on the Infectious Groove Podcast. We have with us today a member of the American music royal family. He was a member of the band 3T. He's the son of Tito Jackson, and that, of course, makes him the nephew of the king of pop, Michael Jackson. Taj Jackson, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, man, we appreciate you taking the time. We wanted to have you on because I want to discuss a whole lot to do with your uncle's legacy, not the least of which is you're putting a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into a new project. Is it going to be a web series, or what is it that you're working on right now?
No, definitely. It's I'm shooting for either Netflix, Amazon, those,
right on.
the big ones. I courtesy of my uncle, we always think big. It's always got to be big and best.
Oh, did he think big? I didn't know this.
Yeah, he had that little, thing about him. And so I think that's the same thing with me. So it's got to be big. It's got to be bigger than HBO.
Right on. Yeah. We'll get down the HBO road here in a little bit. Like all things in 2020, I'm going to assume that progress was going along wonderfully, and then COVID derailed it. So is work resuming? Are you able to at least do some things remotely, or how's that going?
Well, I'm watching the trades, because Hollywood they have a lot more money than I do.
Sure.
and that the project has. And so I'm watching them, and some of them have kind of gone to other countries to start filming stuff and all that, but it's very expensive, the insurance, but not only the insurance, just the safety aspect of it.
Sure.
So for me, I personally thought it was going to be maybe 3 months, this COVID thing. I mean, I was prepared. I had all the toilet paper and everything. I was prepared for longer, but in terms of actually interviewing people again and all that stuff, I didn't think it was going to be this long,
Sure.
and it's kind of frustrating because every day I'm asked, what's going on with the project? Is it still happening? And it is. It's just right now I can't do anything past, interviewing people. That's where I'm at right now.
Sure.
I wish I was in the editing stage. This would be the perfect time, but I'm not there yet.
Yeah. Well, you got everybody captive at home that wants something to watch anyways, right?
Exactly. That would have been the best time, but no.
Do you have a title for it yet? Because I know that it's crowdfunded. What is the title for the doc?
Truth Runs Marathons. Yeah.
Yes.
Which is off of Michael's quote. And the funny thing is I had so many different titles, and it was one of those things. It's almost like picking an album title. It's just the most frustrating thing, because you're like, okay, what's going to stick, but also what represents what I'm doing. And for my uncle, it's just because it really emphasizes what we're all going through as Michael fans, or, that Michael fam aspect of it. We're going through, okay, don't burn yourself out, because this is a marathon and the truth will come out. And it has slowly started coming out. I mean, there's been victories here and there, but it's frustrating, because the first thing you want to do is just run straight for that, as fast as you can, and you'll burn yourself out. And so that's kind of been the slow and steady with it,
which is great. To touch back on the, I know COVID gets in the way of this, but as of right now, do you have, I don't want to say a dream ETA, but do you have an end date in mind for when you'd like to get it out there? Like, assuming this all goes away.
Yeah, exactly. Like this year, I thought it would be out. Like at least I thought it would had been done in terms of, because COVID pretty much March is when we got in lockdown in California. But before that, I was in December. I was like, okay, March onwards, I'm going to be good. Like,
for sure.
We'll get this done. And by probably fall, I'll have it to be shopped around or whatever in that way. But it was really going to be hustling in that aspect, like all cylinders firing. But now this has kind of put a little, wrench in it. But at the same time, I'm also interviewing a lot of people. Like I have a wish list of probably 60 people, and out of that 60 people, hopefully 40 will do it. I know for sure the majority of people have asked to do it, so it's not one of those things that I'm like, it's not like this subject where I have to beg people to do it. There's just certain people that it's timing, it's some of them are in the public eye, and it's kind of like a thing where they're like, okay, what's the temperature, in Hollywood right now? Can I speak about it?
It's one of the sad things that from the way outside looking in, it was sad to watch Michael go through that. He helped so many people that were high profile people. And then when he needed them, it seemed like, you turned on the lights with cockroaches. It was everybody just disappeared on him. So I'm very, very happy to hear that people are asking to be involved in this because I think it's time for this to get cleared up.
It is time. Well, the people that are asking, or the people that are volunteering, are people that have worked with him. So they're not really the Hollywood type.
Right.
They're more the people like co-workers or people that worked at Neverland or people that in that way. Because I wanted to also, and we'll get into this, but the aspect of this project for me is about humanizing Michael Jackson, letting people know, because this whole myth about Michael Jackson, this whole myth of who the media has portrayed him to be, is not at all who Michael Jackson was. Mm-hmm. And so I think the best way to do it's almost like a eulogy where people that knew him talk about him.
Right.
And through that, the audience, the viewer gets to see, okay, these people are saying their story about who Michael Jackson truly was. And so that's, and I would rather hear from.
So I was going to say, so wait, what you're telling me is we're going to hear from real people with real experience with this artist, as opposed to say, man, I don't want to throw out any unbased accusations here, but a bunch of paid blue check marks to just.
Yeah, exactly. That have never met him and just watched a movie and made their,
or maybe not even watched a movie. Maybe got paid to say.
I was trying to give him a little credit, but it's the propaganda machine had gone full speed ahead in that way, and
absolutely,
I think that was one of the hardest things for me was what line do I take in that way, because I didn't want to attack too hard, but at the same time, this is my uncle and his legacy, and my family that they're attacking, and there's no libel law that protects us because. There's no libel law or slander law against the dead, which is ridiculous because they can make up anything.
All things being equal, we shouldn't need that, right? Like people shouldn't be,
people should respect the dead,
right? But I understand that line because I talk my personal favorite Michael Jackson album is "History Continues" because I think the guy finally just drew a line in the sand and said, "Okay, enough of this." And if you even listen to that record one time, you're like, damn it, Michael's mad, and you and I talked about this before I started recording. I have a friend of mine who always reminds me when I get mad over the way Michael was treated, like Michael ended that record with Smile. So you have to remember that, even the guy who it actually happened to knew when to dial it back. So I know what you're talking about like trying to find that balance.
And I love that about my uncle as well. And for all the hell that he was put through in life, it's like he was always trying to help the world. He was always trying to help people still. It didn't make him bitter. It didn't make him angry. It didn't make him, against the world. It was like he just kept opening up his heart and it kept getting stabbed.
Yeah.
And that was the thing with it. And it's almost, it's tragic, but at the same time for me, it's something that I want to live my life in a way because it's like, he was always my role model. It was always like, how much did he endure? But at the same time, it's like, I want to live I want to be someone that caring and that, empathetic in that way.
I went through a period in my life where I was strongly discouraged from trying to be that person because of what happened to him. I was just like, look, if this dude tried that hard, and got beat up that much, like, what's the point? But then you have to keep circling back to pressing on, So obviously, we have to get into these allegations that happened before and after he passed. And, I want to tell you personally, like, all cards on the table. Like, I grew up, I'm just a bit younger than you. I'm only a couple of years younger than you. And I grew up in the same era everybody else did. Like, I have friends of mine that are younger that I have to tell them, like, when the Pepsi accident happened, that was national news. That was before celebrities were reported on. Yeah. And, so I grew up in that era. And when the 1993 allegations came about, I was the first person to say, oh no. Like, oh no. From the outside looking in, you think, perfect opportunity. This guy's got all the money in the world. He's always surrounded by children. He's got all the security in the world. And my initial thought was, oh no, But one thing that was a huge turning point for me that the rest of the world used to point a finger was when the 93 case was settled, because I wasn't even a parent yet. Yeah. And everybody I know said, he paid that family $20 million. So he obviously did it. And my thought was, how the hell are you going to settle for $20 million when your kid, something heinous happened to him?
Yeah. How would any monetary amount be enough at that point? Yeah. And I think, with the 93 allegation as well, there's a couple of things that, really frustrated me about that scenario. I don't know. I mean, obviously your listeners might not know this, but me and my brothers, we were flown to first Bangkok, but then we met him on tour, basically. We got Evie, who was the secretary at the time, basically called my mom, said, Michael needs you. And so we were on the plane. I don't know if it was within hours, but we were on a plane to see my uncle, and we didn't know what it was about. And he broke it down. He was like, they're trying to extort me, and I'm going to fight it. And he was adamant. And it was so hard for us because this is a man that he's still on tour. Like, so he's doing these shows and 80,000 people are screaming for him. But then it's like, he goes back to the hotel and it's like, you can hear the press, because at that time it wasn't the internet. So you would hear people be on the phone. He'd be on the phone with people and they're like, oh, it's bad, Michael. They're saying this about you and they're saying that about you. And it's like, it was just like it was kind of like, which world are we in this way? And and the allegations, one of the frustrating things about it in terms of that is that, the settlement aspect of it, in terms of they say it was 20 million, or now it's up to 23, but it was 15 million. Okay. Not only that, the allegations of the settlement never stopped Jordy Chandler or his family from testifying in a criminal case. Right. Yep. So it's not, I hate the word hush. Oh, it was a hush settlement because it was more of like, okay, now stop bothering me, and let me focus on the criminal trial, because that was still going. That still went on for, I think, 3 to 6 months. Right. They were still trying to nail him in that way. The district attorney and
I could be wrong, but there's a song on History with a very similar sounding title to the person you're referring to. Yeah. Yes, I want to be clear. The song is Dam Snedden. It's not.
Yes. It's not the other thing.
Right. It's sure not. I mean, no matter how much it sounds like that's what Michael's singing.
I love that song.
Me too.
I was like, but it was just like, so it's frustrating for me, because it's like, what they don't tell you too, it's like he was forced to basically, the police, because of Jordy Chandler, quote unquote description, he had to take pictures. Mike had to take pictures of his genitalia. It's like, and what people don't understand, first of all, I hate the narrative that it matched. It never matched, because if it matched, that would have been enough to indict him, and he would have been in jail.
You're done at that point.
Yeah, it's like, it matches. Right. It never matched, and so the media has made that narrative that it matched. We know now Jordy drew a circumcised penis, and my uncle wasn't circumcised. So right then and there, and they knew that once they had that picture, they were like, oh crap. And I think that's why they spun it a different way. Right. But why I'm saying all this is that if you were going to get, and this is kind of, I always say it's logic versus emotion. If you were going to settle, why wouldn't you settle before police took naked pictures of you?
Right.
Like that could go you're the most famous person in the world.
Yeah.
You're going to allow the police department, the police department or Santa Barbara police department take pictures of you naked. That could go anywhere in the world publicly. You know, it could be leaked anywhere because leaks were everywhere at that point. Mm-hmm. You're going to settle afterwards.
Look, the kind of money that Michael Jackson was sitting on at that time, the first time that got whispered toward my direction, I would have been like, here's the money. Well, first of all, neither me nor you nor him would do anything like that. But if you did, the first time something came in your direction, you'd be like, here's the money.
Like, make it go away in that way.
Yeah.
But,
and it's frustrating. Are you surprised by how little research needs to be done to actually find out that Michael Jackson is an innocent man? Like, once I looked into it, I was just like, oh, well, this is cut and dried, but nobody seems to.
You said it right. Once you looked into it,
are you surprised by the amount of people who don't want to look into it?
I think there's certain people that want him to be innocent. The fans. There's certain people that loved his music, rocked to his music, and they're not invested either way. I call them the independents. It's like what we're going through with this voting, this political time right now. Sure. There's the ones that can be swayed either way. It's like, oh, let me hear the evidence, and then there's those that just want him to be guilty in that way. And unfortunately, the media is more on that side of it. And so for me, more and more independents are realizing the truth or finding out the truth by fans or by people that are just talking to them and saying, oh, well, did you know this? Did you know the description didn't match? Did you know that this happened in that way? And so I think that helps with that.
So I've got a couple of questions along the lines of what you just mentioned.
Do it, yeah.
So why do you think that so if you go on the internet through any social media account and you say, if you even post, hey, I think hashtag Michael Jackson is innocent, you're going to get buried in quote unquote haters, right? Yeah. Why do you think that there's a line of reasoning out there that if you're a Michael Jackson fan, you just want him to be innocent, you haven't done your research, Billie Jean's just a really good song. Yeah. And because I've had to defend that in my own house. Like I've had people say, hey man, I get it, his music's great. And I always tell people, look, there is no song good enough to defend this man if he was guilty of this.
If he did that, yeah.
So why do you think that narrative is out there that, oh, well, Michael Jackson fans who think he's innocent must just be crazy?
I think, with any narrative, it's how long the narrative exists. When it's decades and decades of the same narrative, we're going on the third decade of this narrative forced through the media. At some point, people just get brainwashed in that way. And I think, especially if they don't do their homework or if they don't research it. And so that's where you get to the divide between the people that actually studied the case or looked into it or looked into his innocence versus the people that just heard about it. And because you can tell the people that just heard about it because they regurgitate tabloid lies. They're I heard about this.
Are you referring to a lot of those blue check marks that were cutting and pasting the exact same stunning and brave posts?
Yeah. They were, especially the Vanity Fair article, which every time I see someone quote that one, I'm like, oh my gosh.
I mean, have you seen this out there? I've seen Joe Blow Stranger put a tweet out and just go, I've never really looked into it, but the more I look into this, I'm not really a fan, but Michael Jackson's innocent. And then you see miles of haters come out to be, oh no, you must be a fan. You're just, like what? Who is the one looking for something here? Is it Michael's fans or is it this biased set against him?
Yeah, and that's what's really annoying is that there is this group of people that just want to hate on him and want him. It's almost like they want him to be a pedophile. They want him to leave a path of destruction in that way. They should be happy. They should be like, oh, he's innocent. Nothing happened. That's great.
I know.
They're trying to prove that something happened. They want something to happen. Even when there's people like Brett Barnes or Johnny Spence that are like, nothing happened. They're like, no, you were abused. You just don't know it.
My niece was just telling me recently that a friend of hers said to her, I just feel bad for Macaulay Culkin and all of this. And she said, well, Macaulay Culkin has always maintained Michael Jackson. What do you mean? Oh, no, he's just saying that. What?
Yeah. Well, that's the narrative that a lot of people have pressed with people like, oh, they're just covering for a friend or they're just, they haven't realized it yet. They're going to wake up one day when they're 80 or 70 and go, oh, my gosh, I was molested. It's like that's the narrative they're trying to push on it because
Yeah.
There's so many adamant people that have come out in his defense that he hung around that were kids at that point. You know, the Manuel Lewis's to the Corey Feldmans to the Brett Barnes, Johnny Spence, to my whole family as well, to Macaulay Culkin. I mean, there's so many people.
To dozens and dozens of families who were in and around Neverland all the time, but aren't seeking that payday in any way.
Yeah, well, Corey said it best, you know, and it's Corey Feldman. He's like, Michael wasn't that guy. Like, Corey knew the difference because Corey was molested.
Because Corey did deal with that guy, yeah.
Yeah. I know the difference because, you know, I was molested as a kid, not by my uncle. I have to say that, not by my uncle, which is on my dad's side, but on an uncle on my mom's side. So I know the difference. I know the difference between what, you know, a pedophile is versus what it isn't in that way.
That might lead into an answer I have kind of for my next question. What do you say to people that say that? Well, okay, your last name's Jackson. Of course he's innocent. Like, what do you say to people? Like, if someone just walked up to you on the street and said that flat out, oh, well, yeah, of course, you're Jackson. Of course he's innocent. What is your answer?
When it's strangers, it doesn't bother me. But if a friend said that to me, it would almost be like, so you're saying I'm that type of person that would defend a pedophile. No friend has ever said that to me because my friends know me so well. They know I would never stick my neck out for someone that was a bad person. Yep. I've always been a righteous person. I've always lived by that. So they know in that way that, I mean, they're adamant Michael people too, because a lot of them have met Michael throughout the years and stuff like that. Yeah. But it's just like, so I don't get that insulted when it's strangers because they're just going off of what they've heard in the media. Sure. But at the same time, it's like, I do want people to do their homework or research or something. Yeah. Because they have such strong opinions. It's not like they go, well, maybe. It's always like, no, he was a pedophile, you know? And it's like, and that's, and when you get enough of those people, it just bothers you.
Yeah, for sure. So let's shift focus a little bit away from the allegations and more about Michael's general treatment in the media. Yeah. Because now this is very unjournalistic of me, but to say that Michael Jackson has been treated disgracefully by the media would be an understatement, in my personal opinion. To give you an example, the current culture that we are in today, if a black star was diagnosed with vitiligo and began to turn white or more portions of their skin, if even one person went on social media and made a joke about it, the world would come down on their head. But it's just okay to do that about Michael Jackson. Like, why do you think that narrative is out there, that it's just okay? I mean, we're not even, allegations aside, we're talking about physical disabilities and ailments that the man suffered, that it's just okay to make fun of.
Well, I think that was one of the reasons why I wanted to do my project in that way, because I think Michael Jackson was so much larger than life that people almost don't think he was real in a way. They don't think his family feel emotions either. And so I think that's the thing. It's almost like poking fun at something that you don't think can be hurt. Sure. And so I think that's why he took so many blows in that way, in terms of comedic blows, or just now with people saying, you know, being so mean about it in terms of vitiligo. Yeah, you're 100% right. It's bullying. Yeah. People would say, "Oh, you're a bully." You know, how could you do that to someone that's suffering an illness? But something about Michael Jackson, people just don't think, and they don't think he's. I know they know he's real, but it's like, I mean, he was real, but it's
they
don't
think of him as a human being.
They don't think it's going to affect anything because he's larger than life. What's my little voice going to do? What's my joke going to do?
Yeah, and you know what? I've never thought of it that way, but yeah, it's insane to me that he seems to be the one thing that there's no boundaries for. Even with the allegations, I always tell my friends, everyone you know seems to have themselves a little zinger about Michael Jackson and the allegations. What is funny about that? You know, like, what on earth could be funny about that topic? And I've never thought of it until you just said it. That frames it up, that they don't think of him as a human being involved. Yeah.
But you're 100%. What's funny with pedophilia? And there's nothing funny. But a lot of those blue check marks are comedians, and that's I don't know what it is about that, but it's like a lot of them have gotten in trouble making pedophilia jokes on Twitter as well in the past. Yeah. And so it's like, I think one of the things is that it's just it's weird to me, but maybe I'm just sensitive because I have been, you know, abused, sexually abused, you know, as a child.
Yeah.
On my mom's side, I have to keep saying, because everyone takes it out of context. I had a paper do that to me, and I was like, And I even said it, and they still, they left it. Like,
oh yeah, of course.
In the air, of
course. Shit, I'll put that at like.
Not you.
I mean, when I master this interview, I'll put that part at like 15 on the volume, so everyone makes sure they hear that part. Now, do you think that with a lot of what's happened this year with the Black Lives Matter movement and a lot of the changing racial perception and tones in the media, do you think that Michael might start to get more of a fair shake going forward as a Black American?
The greatest thing the media did was they turned certain Black people against Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
With narratives like Michael wasn't proud to be Black, or narratives that, Michael never cared about Black people, which is completely opposite. If you actually studied his work and studied his life and knew his contributions and charitable aspects of it, you know that was not true at all.
Sure.
I mean, I know that because he would always talk to us about it, but at the same time, it's just like, that was probably the brilliance of getting an Oprah to do the after special of Leaving Neverland, because with Oprah comes a lot of the Black community in that way. And so it almost like, even though a lot of the Black community secretly said, in terms of, I'm talking blue check marks, were like, I don't believe it. They didn't want to go against Oprah, so they weren't vocal.
Sure.
And this is a vocal crowd that would normally stand up for Michael, but they couldn't because they didn't want to go against Oprah. And so it really left that aspect of it. It was really, our hands were tied in that way. And a lot of behind the scenes shenanigans also in that I've talked about in the past, but just people trying to quiet us as a family and canceling some of our interviews ahead of time in that way. So we really had the whole big machine against us. They're trying to make it seem like Michael Jackson's fans are the big machine. We are a big machine, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
But at that point, we were helpless. We were kind of trying to figure out what was up and down at that point, because we hadn't seen it yet. We hadn't seen Leaving Neverland.
Sure.
So we were like, we don't even know what it is yet. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we knew the past, and we knew the past allegations.
Yeah.
And once I knew Wade was involved, I'm like, this is such BS. That's all I needed to know in that way, because I didn't know either. I didn't know who it was.
Right.
And then when I heard that Wade Robson was one of them, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're going for round whatever 100 in that way.
Yeah.
It was just,
and again, when we, because there's three separate things. I think when you focus on the allegations, there's three separate things. There's 93, 2005, and then this posthumous unfortunate situation. And honestly, I think this latest one is the one that takes maybe the least amount of true investigation,
It really does. But it got more ridiculous as it went along. I mean, this last one, if you really, between Wade and James, they have 7 different versions of each story that they told. And James, I didn't know at the time. In terms of Wade, I kind of knew in terms of I had hung out with him and family, friends, and all that stuff. So Wade, I felt comfortable talking about when I did interviews and stuff. With James, I deferred it. I was like, well, I don't know James, so I can't talk about James. No. But then when that train station thing hit, where he, because I hadn't seen it at that point, and when they found out that the train station wasn't even built at the time that he claimed that he was molested upstairs in a room, it's like that should have been it. In that way, and
right, absolutely,
I think
a lot of us think a lot of fantastical things of Michael Jackson. One of which is not. I don't think any of us believe he had a time machine. So
if he did, he didn't share that with me.
Yeah,
I love time machines. So.
Yeah. You would think he would share that. Yeah. I want to talk to you a little bit about some other projects that are out there, like Square One. And then I don't know, have you got a chance to see any of the Loving Neverland project that's out there yet?
I've seen clips of it. I haven't seen it, and I've talked to the 2 creators of it because at that point they were going to replace it with a voiceover.
Well, speaking of which, you're speaking to one of the voices.
Oh, really? Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
So I said, once that's done, contact me again, because I didn't want to see it in a form that wasn't complete in their eyes.
Yeah. And so I ended up doing the dialogue for the 2005, the 2005 trial, and just yesterday I completed his battles with Sony.
Awesome.
Because I don't think a lot of people even have any idea what happened between him and Sony between, say, 95 and when Invincible came out. A lot of people.
I know it's powerful. I know the Loving Neverland is powerful because of all the clip. Like, people don't know, as you said. I mean, there's there's a whole generation that grew up without Michael even being alive.
Right.
You know, I still can't fathom in a way, because I'm like, my whole life has been.
Yeah. Well, you're directly connected to him, but like I told you, when I was a kid, it was like from the moment he did the moonwalk on Motown 25 on, it was everywhere that you looked, you know, and I share that with my son now. I tell him that, like, even like the Pepsi accident, I tell him, you know, when you turn on the news now, there's like 5 minutes of news and then 25 minutes of celebrity reporting. Yeah. And I said, you know, when I was a kid, they didn't report on anything to do with celebrities. No. And the evening news the night of the Pepsi accident was like 3 people were shot in Detroit, but we'll get to that in a minute because Michael Jackson got burned, you know, and it was like world headlines. So people don't really.
People can't fathom that. It's a different world in that way.
Absolutely. So you touched on this a little bit earlier, swinging back over to your series.
Yeah.
What are people going to learn about Michael Jackson, the human being, in your series? Like, what is it that you think most people will be surprised by about him as a human being?
Well, I went to a Brad Sundberg seminar. It was one of the best experiences I had, because here's someone, me, who thinks they know everything about Michael Jackson, you know, in terms of hanging out with him for so long and being around him so long. And he had some guests there as well. And hearing the guests talk about Michael and their experiences, just stories, I felt connected again. I felt like, oh my God, I don't know this story.
Yeah.
And everything reinforced how I felt before in that way. And so I think human stories about a human being is the best way to do it, by people that were connected with him in that way, as opposed to, there's going to be certain points where I'm going to have, I would say, journalists or experts when it comes to certain aspects of it in terms of law and all that stuff. But the majority of it, I want to hear from people that knew him best. Just like I always say, I usually use Beethoven or Mozart, but I'll bring it closer. Kobe Bryant, for example. You know, I knew Kobe only from just saying hi to him like a couple times, bumping into him.
Sure.
But if I wanted to really know who Kobe Bryant was, I would want to know from his teammates. I would want to know from his friends, his family. You know, I wouldn't want to know from a journalist that watched him play basketball.
Sure.
That's fine for the basketball aspect, but that's not fine for the human being aspect.
Exactly.
And so for me, I would want to know from his cousin who, you know, that they used to do whatever it is, you know, used to run around the city joking and looking for girls. I don't know that's not what happened.
No, I know what you mean.
I'm just saying that's the stories that people are like, oh my God, because then people identify. And I think that's the problem, is that people can't identify. When I say people, the public can't identify with Michael Jackson because the media's painted this picture that's unidentifiable.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really is. It's a cartoon character.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the impression that I get. I feel like it was, and tell me if I'm off base on this, but I feel like it would have been as important to Michael to be remembered for his humanitarian efforts as it was his entertainment. Like,
I think it's even more.
Okay.
I think the music was his legacy in terms of he was leaving it for people, but being forgotten as a human would have been worse to him in that way of who was the man. What in that way, like, he loved biographies. He loved books on biographies in that way. When we go to bookstores, he'd pick up books on, you know, Disney or Martin Luther King or any just people that were sect, and he would study them, he'd read about them and get any kind of knowledge he could of them. And so that's kind of how I'm approaching this. I want people to, at the end of it, being like, wow, there's no way Michael could have done this, because he wasn't that type of person.
Sure.
In that way, everything, all these people, these 40 to 60 people, why are they so adamant in terms of, you know, with smiles and all that stuff, if this guy was a pedophile?
Sure.
You know,
and that kind of leads me into my next question. So is that your ultimate hope for the series? Like, that not just the allegations and washing his name clean, but is that your ultimate hope, is that more people see him as the human being that he was after they view this? I
think that for me, because people go, well, why are you doing it? And why can't you get a director or whatever? And I think the thing is because I never looked at my uncle as Michael Jackson in that way. And so my whole life this was Uncle Michael. This was someone that had bad days, good days, cried at times, laughed at times, and all that stuff. And that was the magic that I had in that way. I got to see that.
Yeah.
And so if I can share that with the audience, just whatever I can share in that way, that's a blessing in a way, because he was such an incredible person that I think people are missing out in that way. And so the Michael, trust me, as I got older, I was like, well, and seeing him on stage in front of 80,000 people,
that's got to be something else. Yeah.
Then your mind clicks, but that's not how I ever looked at him. And I think he appreciated that about me and my brothers. We never looked at him in terms of that way. We'd always joke about him and always say, can I take your picture, Michael? And all that stuff. And, we'd always keep him. He was always humble anyway, but we'd always throw little jabs here and there just because it was just fun in that aspect of it.
Right on.
That was our friendship and our relationship.
Which is awesome. Outside of the obvious, which is, the proving innocent of the allegations, do you think that there's maybe one thing that you can think of that you might have already worked on that the average fan or viewer will look at and just go, I had no idea about that as Michael Jackson? Is it just him as a human being altogether, or is there something you can think of that most people would go, oh, no way, I can't believe that about him?
I think we're starting to see that a lot in terms of interviews that other celebrities are doing in terms of Michael on the prowl for women.
Yeah, there's been a couple
something that I knew about, but it's like people are starting, the Akons and the baby faces are starting to expose that, which I think is great. I think it's funny because he was like that. He would whisper in your ear like, ooh, like in that way, but it was like, he was just a guy in that way. But I think that's the thing, because he had such an image, clean cut image, that people don't understand that, but he was always a gentleman about it, but too shy at times, but it was like, I think those kind of stories always interest me in that way. And so we're learning about that aspect of it. And his generosity is, as you said, is one of the things that it goes so unreported, because he did a lot of stuff without people even knowing that he did.
Right.
In that way, because he never was like, oh, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to donate this or buy this, and then I'm going to get a camera crew to follow me. He never believed that was true charity. He always told us, me and my brothers, he's like, true charity is donating something anonymously and making someone smile in that way.
Yeah, because at that point you're not giving anything, you're getting as much or more than you're giving.
You're not doing it for the credit, you're doing it for the to fulfill the soul.
I think when you talk about celebrities sharing stories, and I'm sure there's a certain amount of comedy in this, but soon after Michael passed, when Chris Tucker had his Netflix special come out, and he tells the whole story about hanging out with Barry Gibb and Michael. In my world, that entire story happened for real. And one of my favorite things that makes me think of Michael more as a human is when he says, you'd be sitting at Neverland and something magical happened, like 2 giraffes walk by, and you'd be like, Michael, is that 2 giraffes? And Michael would be like, it's 3, And he says,
I remember that. And
then he says, Michael, that's fly as hell. And Michael said, I know, that's why I bought him. Like that makes me think of him more as a human being,
And Chris has a great way of storytelling.
Yeah. And Chris is always one of those guys too, that he has nothing to gain from, being, if anything, he's got something to lose by sticking on Michael's side.
Everyone that has come out publicly to support Mike has had everything to lose, because when Leaving Neverland hit, we were in the midst of 2 movements, Time's Up and Me Too.
Yeah.
And they were at full effect. Mm-hmm. And so the lynch mob, and I'm not saying that they were, I'm just saying it was like it had grown into something where people were just hungry for blood. Mm-hmm. At that, it's almost like I call it the gladiator times, when people are just like, we want to see more, we want more heads on the top of the block.
Yep, absolutely.
In that way, who can we get? And I think it was unfair in that way, because it wasn't even about the truth anymore. It was just about who can we get to fall the hardest in that way.
And who bigger? Yeah.
I mean, just the fact that the Simpson episode that my uncle participated in is still not on, it's the only episode that they took out of the Simpson catalog.
Yeah.
It's like, that's ridiculous to me.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, when I could go on about this for another 3 hours, but when you have someone who's acquitted time and time again, this is not up for discussion. This is a clear-cut matter. I mean, there's nuance to it when you start to look into some of the incredibly devious things that the people involved did. Yeah. But at the end of the day, this is a person who's been found innocent by every measurable means, and yet we still deal with crap like the Simpsons deal.
Yeah,
it's just insane. Well,
yeah.
I'm working myself up here.
Yeah.
One of the things that we stress on this show is staying positive and trying to stay positive, and that is one of the reasons why we talk about your uncle's music. We think that there should be more of that positive groove in the world. I don't have it exactly, but there's a quote on your Twitter account that basically says, one person can be a shining example and a positivity, and you want to be that person.
I want to be that person. Yeah.
We can't thank you enough for being so generous with your time and coming on the show and discussing all this with us and helping us spread more of that positivity, man. I can't stress enough how much we really appreciate that.
No, thank you. I think the thing is just, it's what's missing. It's what's lacking. I truly believe when my uncle passed, there's just like this hole that was left. Mm-hmm. This hole, because he had such an presence to him of positivity. His music, his image, everything, just his being so charitable in that way. The world felt it when he died in that way.
In my opinion, we lost. I mean, entertainer aside, everything to do with that aside, we lost one of the most empathetic voices that's ever been.
And people that have some kind of empathy in them felt it in that way. And so I think that's the thing with Michael Jackson is that, yes, we still have his music, but there's this hole in everyone's soul, basically, because he's no longer around.
Sure.
And people have asked, what would Michael be? I saw it on Twitter today, and someone asked, what would Michael be doing right now in this time period? He'd be writing a song, probably trying to bring everyone together. He'd be donating whatever he could to help whatever country. He was never just like, I'm just going to focus on what's around me. He was always a worldly person. So it's like,
but it's funny. It's funny that you mentioned that. About 4 weeks after the George Floyd incident started and things started to get really bad, my 14-year-old son asked me flat. We were in the car. Michael Jackson wasn't even playing, and out of the clear blue sky, he said, "What do you think Michael Jackson would be doing if?" And I said he would have written a song that would have united a bunch of people, and he would have done it 3 weeks ago.
He would, he was on it, and not only would he have done it, he would have united the world. Like he had a uniting factor that scared a lot of people in a way. And I hate to say it, but it's true. It's very true. He had a power that scared a lot of people, and that which is one of the reasons why they wanted to tear him down in that way. It was too much power. I mean, I went to, when I was doing the Asian leg of the tour, or not me, because I wasn't part. I'm going to make it sound like I was performing in it. But when I'm going to
go find that bootleg where you pop up in the middle of the stage instead of Michael.
When I was being like hanging out as a groupie kind of thing with my brothers, sure. Like we were literally just following him around in the best way in terms of being students you could be, because this is yes, we had 3T, but this is pre us coming to the world and saying, hey, we're 3T in that way. We got a lesson of mastery just watching him. And so, but I'll never forget going from the hotel to the venue, the sea of people from the hotel was probably 15 minutes away. It was like a parade. There's people outside waving and clapping, foreign people, from a foreign land, obviously. I don't know which city it was or country it was in Asia, so I can't say because I don't remember that. But it was amazing to me. I'm like, this is like a president coming into town, or in that way. And it's larger than life. And it wasn't like there was a breakup in the line. The line just kept going all the way to the stadium. I'm like,
that's
wow.
Crazy.
And that was just surreal to me because I had seen everything at that point in terms of his fame. But that parade of people just lined up. It was almost like they just wanted a glimpse of the car pass, because it wasn't like he was visible. They just wanted a glimpse of the car passing,
right,
so they could say they witnessed it.
Yeah.
It was just amazing.
And like you said before, when someone has that kind of power, it can unfortunately be scary for some of the wrong folks,
especially if you can't be manipulated. And that was the thing with my uncle. He all he cared about was helping people. But it's like, it's good if you can take that and use it to your advantage, or if you can be bought to do this or that. But when people found out my uncle can't be bought to do this or that, then you become a threat to them.
Yeah, right on. Well, I'll tell you what, man, I sure as hell hope our listeners have come away from this. At the very, very least, I want people to say, you know what? Those two guys sound like they know what they're talking about, and I should look into this a little bit more.
Honestly, 5 to 10 minutes of just starting to look, and you'll already realize all the holes and mistakes that I shouldn't say mistakes, just because they weren't mistakes, purpose mistakes in terms of the media. They feed people with lies about Michael Jackson in that way, where they leave things out. Just as of yesterday, when James Safechuck's trial was dismissed, or his case was dismissed, that wasn't the narrative for the media. The narrative was Dan Reed's working on Leaving Neverland 2. Yeah. So they basically buried, the lead and buried the positivity of my uncle's case being dismissed, and threw a negative in there. Yeah. And that's just what they do.
Me personally, and I know a lot of our listeners feel the same way, and I speak for my other two co-hosts. They're not here right now, but they're most definitely stamping their names on this discourse. We hope that the narrative does change, and that it starts to change with the hard work that you're doing, and
it's changing now.
Yeah.
As you mentioned with Square One, Square One was huge. Liza Leaving Neverland was huge. Those things, the more people that see it, it's almost like as a community, we just have to wake up people. They're like sleeping, and the more people we wake up, once they're awake, they understand in that way, because they can't. Once you learn the hustle that's happening in that way, in terms of you're being hoodwinked, then you're like, you're wise to it at that point.
Sure,
and then
sure.
You kind of, it's like the Matrix. You can't unsee it.
Yeah, you can't unsee it. I couldn't agree more. Once people see the truth, they're not going to be unable to see it. And according to the title of your marathon and your uncle's very famous quote, "The truth runs marathons." And I can't wait to see it myself. I really hope that our listeners are looking forward to it. I know that it started out as crowdfunded. Is that still the path you're going on? And if so, how can people help?
It is the path I'm still going on. I've looked for outside investors as well in that way. I don't want to go approach a Netflix or an Amazon currently right now, just because it's Michael's a delicate situation. And I don't want them to influence how it's made.
How things come out.
Well,
sure.
I don't mind if they distribute it after it's made. It's just before it's made, it has to be
distributing it and having a say in it are two completely different things.
And that's especially when you're Jackson. I mean, Martin Bashir, for example, his documentary. That if my uncle had a say in it, which he didn't have a say in it, but if he was supposed to have a say in it, but if he would have had a say in it, things would have been different.
So one of my favorite, a lot of things that people don't know about Michael Jackson is the astute businessman that he was. And one of my all-time favorite Michael Jackson moves is having his own cameras run during that whole Martin Bashir situation, because the world got to make a whole fuss out of it for about a week until Michael was like, "Oh, do you want to see what really happened?" And then,
do you want to see the behind the scenes? Shout out to Hamid, who was the cameraman, and he kind of was sensing it as well. He's like, "I don't trust this guy."
Good.
And so he was there on the side and set up all the lights and the camera and stuff like that. So it's amazing. But I would just say, for me, yes, I'm just super grateful. I'm super grateful for anyone that can at least just give 5 to 10 minutes of.
And where do they go for if they want to help crowdfund this? Where do people go?
You go to GoFundMe, and then Truth Runs Marathons. Basically, you see there, Michael Jackson Truth Runs Marathons.
Right on. Well, we will.
I have a weird way. I don't like asking for, but that's why I'm like that's where you saw the hesitant.
I will be happy to ask on your behalf because I have no problem. If nothing else, like I say, to me, this is a giant miscarriage of justice on behalf of someone. And if you take everything about from the name down out of it, this is just a miscarriage of justice. And to me, nothing more positive could happen than more people learning the truth about that. So
100%. And no matter what the number says on the crowdfunding thing, it is going to be done in that way. It's just
awesome.
It's just the more money obviously helps speed up stuff. You can hire more people and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
But I want to get that out, that it will 100% be done.
Awesome. Taj Jackson, thank you so much for your time, man. We really appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me.
Right on. So that was our interview with Taj Jackson. Now, Taj mentioned that he has kind of a hard time asking for funding, and we do not have a hard time with it. So we are asking you to go to GoFundMe, search for The Truth Runs Marathons, and help fund this project. That's about all for this week. Make sure to follow the Infectious Groove Podcast on all social media, infectious_pod on Twitter, and Infectious Groove Pod on Facebook and Instagram. Make sure to subscribe to the show and catch up on all of our past episodes. Next week, we will have an interview with Brian Elmquist of the Lone Bellow and Joy Club, two acts that he's involved in with completely different sounds and both great. Without music, life would be a mistake. Bye!
The Infectious Groove Podcast is hosted by Russ Robinson, Kyle Wimple, and Michelle Koselecki. Produced and edited by Russ Robinson. Intro and outro music composed by Chris Kimmel. Opening credits read by Stacey Robinson. Recorded with a Rode Podcaster Pro and Rode Pod mics.